Hello, you amazing friends. This is your pal, Edwards here, speaking to the amazing Steph Gobraiel. Steph, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Now, I was going to say, you have had, not your fault, the most chaotic day, and I'm so glad. Thank you again for fitting in our live stream. I think any normal human would have cancelled it, but you kept at it, so thank you.
That's okay. It's perseverance, Ed. You got to just, keep moving the pieces on the board and, trying to juggle it all. It's part of life, right?
Yeah, and what I thought we'd focus on today is chaos. Like today, I'm pretty relaxed, but tomorrow I want to be on a 6:30 a.m. flight to Brisbane. I got all these meetings. I got to run a meetup, then I got to fly home. So tomorrow, my day is going to be utter chaos. Your day today clearly is chaos. I just want to say, I want to talk to you about chaos because I mean, you're an amazing business mentor and educator. How do we deal with chaos in our business lives and stay focused on what matters? What are your thoughts on that one, Steph?
So I think sometimes you've just got to play out a few scenarios, Ed. It helps. So last night I came up with 4 scenarios that today can play out. And that's probably because I was overthinking it because I like to be prepared.
It's good. It's good to be prepared.
Yeah. And one of those scenarios did play out. So sometimes you've just got to, I guess, have that flexibility to be able to move things around. And then you should be able to, I think with a little bit of planning ahead of time, this is why you and I talk about planning on LinkedIn as well. I think it'll be easier to move things around when you've got that buffer or if you've got that flexibility. And it's just really hoping that other people understand that, you need to move things around and life gets in the way and, everyone experiences it, so we're not the only ones experiencing that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think as well, I think with the whole planning thing, right? The one thing I always say to people, if you are watching, by the way, thank you for coming in. Smash that like, share, and comment. Connect with Steph Gobraiel and myself. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat. One thing that I do all the time, and I've always done this even for years, is I love spending a good 5 minutes on a Sunday night planning my week coming ahead. I like to think about obviously what I got on, what are the big things, what are the issues I got to deal with, and I find that simple 3 to 5 minutes of me just not even writing, I'm just sitting there thinking intentionally for a few minutes. That few minutes pays dividends for an amazingly good week. And I agree with you. I think chaos is something that happens. It can be very random, of course, but it strikes me that the more we plan is the better off we can deal with that chaos. What do you think of that one, Steph?
Yep, absolutely, Ed. And then at least if you know what's coming up, in that week, you'll know whether, you need more of a buffer or if you need to move things around to make sure that you're not going to get stressed and you're not going, to get overwhelmed. And it's not to say it's not going to happen, but if you're prepared, yeah, exactly. But if you're somewhat prepared for it, then it's going to be less of that stress or less of that overwhelm.
Yeah, the thing I find as well, interestingly, and by the way, I've got my phone on, keeping an eye on your comments. Anyone say hello? We'd love to hear from you. The other thing I find fascinating as well about the whole stress and chaos and that type of thing is that at the end of the day, like let's say you got heaps of things on the go, right? At the end of the day, sometimes you have to let things go. Sometimes you got to turn around and say, you know what? I'm not going to get this done today. It's not going to happen. I have to push this aside and focus on what matters. And one thing I've found a lot of business people do really badly and to their own detriment, I used to do this, is that they're very good at focusing on stuff that doesn't actually move the needle, that is doing business activities that aren't going to increase sales. I think it's a very good one I do all the time. I've spoken to people sitting there trying to create a piece of content, and they've got 3 leads I haven't returned calls to. So they've literally got people knocking on their door wanting to hire them. They're not ringing them up or following them up, and they're busy just playing around on LinkedIn. Now, I love playing around on LinkedIn, but not when there's leads available. And I want to talk to you about priorities. How do you know what the ultimate priorities are at a given point in time? To me, it's an amazing question. How do we know what we should really focus on, especially when we're going to make those crucial live or die decisions where we can't do some certain things?
Well, I always say to my clients, Ed, have some priorities for the week. Okay. Now, it doesn't have to be, I'm not talking about a list. I'm talking about priorities.
What's
Okay?
the
And then
focus going to be for the week? What's the
exactly,
focus?
right? What's going to be maybe the 2 or 3 big focuses for the week? And then you work around that. But as you said, Ed, the gold is in the follow up. If you don't follow up with people, they're gone, sort of thing. And that sort of reflects on the way you do business as well. So that follow up is so crucial. It should be part of everyone's sort of routine at some point in the week, right? Because if you make that a routine or a habit, then you're going to automatically be checking, who do I need to follow up this week?
Yeah.
Just even check in.
Yeah, it's funny. Years ago, and I'm gonna speak negatively of this person, but I won't identify him, so I'm not like that, right? But I remember years ago, I had this disagreement slash. I ended up tragically winning, but I had this disagreement slash fight with someone, and they were they weren't a bad person, but they were very opinionated, very stuck in their own ways, very much. If I think it's true sort of character. They weren't open to debate or reason. I remember. Then they started a business and they had no customers, okay? No customers. And they were busy creating all this automation and processes for customers they don't have. And I sort of walked in there saying, I think you've got it back to front. I think you should focus on getting customers. And once you have customers coming in, then you can work on your automation processes. And that person was like, well, what do you know, Ed? You're just a, you know what, you need to go beat it, Ed. You need to jump in a lake. You need to take a long walk off a short pier. You need to, go play with traffic is what they basically said. And 3 months later, they were out of business. And I found that fascinating and I've done this before, sometimes we focus on things that just don't matter, or they're just the wrong priority. I've been guilty of that. So I bet you would have seen some crazy stuff like that too, Steph.
Yes, and I think, Ed, we are in a business of connections, right? Human connection, sorry. The processes can be done in the background and the automation always comes later. And I always tell that to potential clients. I had someone that wanted me to, organize their processes and systems in order to automate to get more sales. And I said to them, but you're not showing up. So I said to them, I can't guarantee that your sales will go through the roof based on that area alone. And we just went in circles. And in the end, I said, look, I can't help you because I can't guarantee you something that you're not doing.
So they were saying to you, hi, Steph, you need to create all these systems to get me customers. And your response was, well, you need to put content into the system and do stuff. They're like, nah, Steph, I'm not going to do that. But it's Steph's fault if it doesn't work. Was that basically the conversation?
Well, yeah, it was more of them not showing up. And that's when the conversation of, well, people need to know who they're buying from. It's not going to be just based on the results that you provide. Again, we're in the business of human connection. We need to know there's synergy there, and we need to build that rapport before anyone will buy from you at the end of the day. And look, some people, you can't convince them otherwise. If they think the sky is green, they're going to learn the hard way that the sky is not green, right? I've met a few people like that. And sometimes, there's a saying, Ed, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah. On a funny note, this is totally off topic. I should not be talking about this on a live stream, but I just can't help myself, right? But have you heard about? I'm not. And what's going to be funny is I'm not kidding. What I'm going to be talking about. You're going to think I'm kidding. I'm actually not kidding, which is what makes it funny. Have you heard of the flat Earth community, the flat Earthers?
I have heard that.
Yeah. Now I'm not. Now what's funny is I'm not kidding. I've been watching all these videos on YouTube about these flat Earthers, so I'm not kidding. Of course, it's in America. So in America, is there's this growing community, I might add, growing community of people that think the Earth is flat. Like literally, the Earth is flat. It's all been faked by NASA, and the government's in on it. And they literally think the Earth is flat, and anything to that is just propaganda. And they have actual scientists with proof debate these people And these people just won't listen. They just can't get through to them. And someone left this great comment on a YouTube video, and they said it's like playing checkers with a pigeon.
Mm.
And I like this one, playing checkers with a pigeon. You can play checkers with a pigeon, you can win, but the pigeon will still poop on your board and fly off. I kind of like that.
Never heard that one before, to be honest. But
the flat earthers amaze me. I've been watching these videos on flat earthers. You can take them a literal photo of the earth being round. Nah, it's CGI, it's fake, right? You can say, but I fly up in a plane and I see the earth curving. No. They're your eyes distorting you. Like, doesn't matter what you say, they've got everything there. So it's just totally funny. So I find it amazing what some people think. And we've got Dwight here saying, Ed, I too believe the earth is flat. You are wise, Mr. Deer. There you go. Thank you, Dwight. I think he's trolling me, but there you go. We love you, Dwight. Now, Steph, I want to ask you, right? And you've brought up a new conversation arc. How do we work with difficult people? Like, we've all had difficult customers, difficult people we have to persuade. How do we work with difficult people? How do we persuade those people that don't want to be persuaded?
Look, I've learned the hard way, Ed, that we can't always persuade them. And that's the honest truth, right? No matter how hard you try, no matter what you do to try and persuade them, sometimes they can't be persuaded.
Yeah.
And you've got to know when to call it a day when you work with people like that. And that's the honest truth. Doesn't matter how good the money is, doesn't matter what sort of, perks you're getting from the job or whatever it is. At the end of the day, because what's going to happen is it's going to come back full circle. What's going to happen is they're going to turn around and say whatever service you've provided has not provided results. Right. And then that finger is going to be pointed at you. So that's why I've learned the hard way that you've just got to know when to call it a day when you have clients like that.
Yeah. I find it amazing. I'm going to say you've done some incredible, crazy stuff, Steph. And I was going to ask you as well, Steph, right? And I'm going to ask you a bit of it is coming towards the end of the week. So as you know, I get a bit more wacky towards the end of the week. What's the dumbest thing you've seen over the past 6 to 12 months of business? What's the most stupidest, dumbest thing you've ever seen that really got you questioning reality?
I think that it's this person that believed that in order, to get more sales through the door, they needed to do their processes and automation, in their business. And as I said, it was one of those moments like, where is the camera? Because I couldn't understand that.
So trying to understand their logic, right? So you're saying is, I want to get my back-end business processes better because that'll bring me more sales. Was that their argument?
Yes, that they will be able to handle more sales.
Okay. But they're saying, I'm going to do all this back-end work on process and this is going to bring me more sales. Was that their argument?
Yes, that they'd be able to do more sales by doing
that.
Which is fine.
Which is fine. But what's the problem with the argument?
The problem with the argument is there was some sort of guarantee that that person was asking for some sort of guarantee that by me doing the systems and the automation that it will bring more sales.
Oh, okay. So in other words, Steph, I'm going to hire you to build all these back-end processes.
Yes.
Which has nothing to do with bringing in sales, but then I'm going to hold you responsible if it doesn't bring any sales in.
That's right. So, the processes and the automation can be working like clockwork, but if there's crickets on the increase of sales, then that finger would have been pointed at me. And it's like, I'm not taking that on because it doesn't work.
How did you come back to this Elon Musk genius? Like this, obviously this guy's the intellect of Richard Branson and Elon combined, right? Do you come back to him and deal with such superior intellect? Do you just say, dude, what are you talking about? This makes no sense. What was the conversation like? That would have been funny to watch, actually.
Well, we went around in circles for about half an hour to 45 minutes, and I realized I was saying the same thing in different ways. And sometimes when you say things a different way and people are like, nah, again, it's like calling the sky green. It's like you can't. It's like no, and that's where you have to put boundaries in for
Yep.
yourself as well, right? I'm not going to say, yeah, I'll do it, and by some miracle that person will get more sales from doing the back end stuff. I was like, no, I can't help you, but thank you for your time today. Let's call it a day.
Yeah. And you said the B word, which is I actually wasn't going to ask you in this live stream this B word, but you brought it up. Boundaries. We need to talk about boundaries right now. I notice a lot of people in business don't have strong boundaries, and they get themselves into a lot of trouble. Be it people don't pay them for work, they get taken advantage of, or in your case, like you're a smart lady, so you didn't, but people would agree to dumb things, like dumb propositions like you were talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a bit about boundaries and what do they mean and why do we need them?
So when I started out in business, Ed, which was just over 4.5 years ago, you'll do anything and everything, right? Because you want to, get your business off the ground, right?
Which is reasonable, which is legit. That's a reasonable thing to think.
That's right. So then over the years, I started to learn the hard way that you need to have boundaries in place, because then people will start to think that you're available 24/7 when, some people aren't, like if you've got a young family and stuff, especially, I think part of it was, one of my lessons was I needed to sort of set that boundary in place before even starting up with a client, because then they'll know what the expectations were. But initially I was like, yep, I'll do it all whenever you need it. It will all be done, even if it had to be done, at 9:00 at night, right? But then as you kind of start to gain confidence, I think it's when you start to get that confidence in business, you start to put your boundaries in place. And that's the reason why we start our own businesses, right? To run the show and not dictate, but maybe dictate how you want things to run. And if you find if you find the right clients, then they will be respectful of that as well. Now, it's not to say if something's urgent and something's come up or something's broken that I won't help my clients, because I will, right? But we're not going to make it on sort of a daily basis as well.
Yeah, I love it. There's one thing I find is, and I'd say, women tend to, I think, are worse than this. And I know you agree with me on this one. When it comes to boundaries, I find women tend to have looser boundaries that works to their disadvantage. I've seen that a lot, right? Ooh, it looks like
I can't hear you. Just 1 second. Just one second.
Looks like poor Steph has some technical trouble. So you know what we're going to do in the meantime? While wonderful Steph is dealing with the technical problems, I'm just going to sit here and just tell you how awesome you are and say that you're amazing. Now, Steph's a very, very, very cool lady. I've known her for many years. One of our networking leaders, actually. And she's a very savvy business coach and business leader who rocks so much. And I got to say, I love her work. And if you're here, my friends, watching right now, I just want to say I appreciate you big time. And it looks like we've got Steph back. Let's give it a shot. Steph, how did you go with your technology? Do we have you back?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Oh, that sounds really good. It sounds like microphones have declared war on you lately. Is that a fair comment?
Yes, I usually have this sitting next to me, but with the juggle of my daughter and everything, it was the one thing I forgot, Ed.
Yeah, that's funny. While you were off fixing your microphone, looking after your daughter, I was doing a monologue on how awesome you are. And Steph, I thought I'd move the conversation along, and I'd like to ask you, right?
Sure.
Now we've got the end of the year coming up, right? We've got Christmas coming up, we've got the break and all that sort of thing. God, Christmas come around quickly. What is your advice to anyone watching to make the most out of their Christmas, both financially and also personally?
It's a great question, Ed. I would say to, first of all, give yourself a proper break. Okay, because I've seen people, work over Christmas, and then what happens is by February, March, they've got no energy left in the tank. So give yourself the permission to have a proper break, and maybe plan around it as well. So what you're doing is you put in place what you want to get done by the end of the year. And then by the end of the year, you know what you want to start off with in the beginning of the year. And then that way, when you come back, you already have direction as to what you're going to be working on. And then that way you can, you could take a break with your family or your loved ones or whoever it is and be present, right? Because if we don't do this planning, you're always going to be thinking in the background, and look, as business owners, we do that. But if you do a little bit of planning around it, it won't be as much as well.
Now, I was going to ask you, what have you got planned on the break and what are you cooking up business-wise next year, Steph? Are you allowed to let part of the cat out of the bag?
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently working on a business support, like a mentoring, what's the word? Sorry, Ed, it's been a bit of a big day.
Well, no, you've done well. You've done well. How about we call it Steph Gobraiel, the F38 Business Membership and Support Community? I don't know if that's good.
Well, that's what it's going to be, right? It's about the business basics and, just to bring people in. So if they do need that sounding board, if they do need, more collaborative feedback from people, they have it in business. So that's one thing I'm doing. And another thing is because I'm presenting mid-November at the Visibility Lab at a face-to-face in Sydney, which I think there are still tickets available if anyone wants to come along. I'm presenting on planning, and what I'm currently having made is a custom-made template, if you want to call it that, in regards to, planning for next year, but looking at what's happened this year and like a whole process to go through it as well. So I'm thinking I might, offer that up as well late November, early December as a masterclass as well.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. We've got Nathan Waldron with us who says, amazing. Nathan, we've loved your work. You've just come in, like, share, comment. If you are watching the recording, make sure you connect with amazing Steph Gobraiel. Steph, I've got to say, you are an incredible lady. And I've got to say, I love your work. And we've been on for a while. I know you've got a crazy hectic day, so I don't want to keep you too long. But I just want to ask you, can you give us some amazing closing thoughts and tell us how people can get into contact with you to learn more?
Sure. So closing thoughts. Okay. Choose one thing that you want to work on for yourself in 2024. It might have something to do with business. It might not have something to do with business, but pick one thing and just think about it, right? You don't have to make a decision. There's a very big difference about thinking about something and, making a decision about it, and just do something for you that might, give you more energy in business, or it might, better you in some shape or form. But just have a think about something that you can do for you in 2024.
I love it. I love where you're going. You're getting us to already think about next year. I think that's very savvy. There you go.
Well, it's around the corner, right, Ed? It's really not that far. We're almost in November. So
yeah. So now's the time to think 2024 and plan for Christmas. Is that a fair capturing of your sentiments, Steph?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Ed.
Steph, you are amazing. And of course, you're an amazing business mentor. You've got your business support community coming out. And obvious question, but Steph, how can people get into contact with you?
Oh, of course. So connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn. LinkedIn.
Yep. Definitely LinkedIn. But if you want to have a chat, I have a free discovery call that you can book in on my website at s38businessmanagement.com.au. It's complimentary. There's no obligations. It's just we can, sit down and look at where you're at in business and where you're trying to head, or if you, want to talk through something with someone like a sounding board, we can also do that as well.
Steph, you're amazing. I'm going to let you get back to managing your chaos, which you do so beautifully.
Thanks for having me, Ed. Have a great day.
Beautiful. Thank you, Steph, and thank you, everyone. Love your work. See you soon on a live stream.